We're talking today with Mr. Shirley Weber of Kalamazoo, Michigan. The interviewer is James Smither of Grand Valley State University. Mr. Weber, can you begin by telling us a little bit about yourself? For instance, where and when were you born?
Yeah. Well, I was born in Kalamazoo here, December 11th, 1918.
Mm-hmm. And what did your family do? What did your father do for a living?
Well, at that time, well, I don't know, but he worked for American Sign Company for a long time, then he went to Southern Paper Company.
Mm-hmm.
And then when he's 75, he retired.
Well, I was mostly thinking about what he was doing when you were growing up. So was he working for American Sign Company then?
Who, me?
When you were growing up, when you were a kid, what your family was doing?
Yeah, that's where he worked.
Okay. And so then did you go to school in Kalamazoo?
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Down on the north end.
Lincoln?
What was it?
It's Lincoln.
Okay. No. Yeah. And did you?
I might.
Okay. That's okay. And then did you finish high school?
Yes,
Okay.
Central High School.
All right. And then what did you do when you graduated from high school?
I went right in the Army.
Okay.
I mean, within a week or two.
Okay. So did you join the Army or the Guard, or what did you join?
Well, I joined the Guard in '38. That's right. And then we were, I was in CC for 6 months, and then I joined the Guard again. And
Okay. Now, why did you join the Guard the first time?
well, you couldn't get a job. That depression was on, and you couldn't get a job. But a lot of us out of high school did that.
Okay. And then why did you go from the Guard to the Civilian Conservation Corps? Why did you change?
Oh, they paid about $2 a month more.
Okay.
But that was all.
All right. Well, in the Civilian Conservation Corps, what did they have you do? What kind of work were you doing?
Oh, we planted trees, and we also cut down trees and burnt the brush and everything. It was jack pine trees up in UP.
Okay, so you got packed up all the way to the UP.
Yeah.
How long did you stay up there?
6 months,
Okay.
all winter.
All right. And then did that job end, or did you just decide that you'd rather go
No.
back to Kalamazoo?
Well, my time was up, so I come back and then joined the Guard.
Okay. And so when did you rejoin the Guard? Was that 1940 or
Well, this
39
happened
or?
in '39.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, when you're in the Guard at this point, what did you have to do for them? What did they expect from you?
Well, just be a soldier, I guess. That's about all they.
But were you a full-time soldier at that point, or just a part-time soldier?
Well,
While you were in the Guard before
National
before
Guard
they
was
mobilized you?
part-time. Yeah, but we trained. That's all. Just on rifles and things like that.
So rifles, and
Marching and all
right?
that,
Yeah.
yeah.
Did they send you up to Camp Grayling? Did they send you to Camp Grayling?
Oh yeah, I was there for 2 weeks. Yeah. Well, twice.
And what did they have you do up there?
Well, we're in camp, and then we had maneuvers. And, but there wasn't much other than maneuvers.
Right. And now, do you have an idea of about how many people were involved in those maneuvers? When you went up to Camp Grayling, was it sort of
Okay.
the whole regiment, or?
Well, yeah, the whole regiment, at least the whole regiment, yes.
And were there men maybe from the 125th who were up there as well? Or, because that was a regiment that was in the Red Arrows initially.
But I'm not sure if they were up there at that time or not. But I think they were, because we had maneuvers and we were fighting back and forth. I mean, you know, make believe.
Right. Yeah. Now, when you're on those maneuvers, I mean, did you have actual weapons to use at that point?
We had rifles.
And-
Well, they were scarce. A lot of them didn't. And we had mortars, but they were fake too. Yeah, but they didn't have them. The Army was getting them then. And then when the war started in '41, then we went to Louisiana.
Actually, didn't they mobilize you?
Camp
even-
Beauregard.
Yeah. And that would have been like October 1940, right?
Yeah.
So
the Army took us over.
Right.
Yeah.
So the war had started in Europe, but we hadn't, and so the country was kind of getting ready.
Yeah, we
So-
were getting ready.
So you mobilized a guard division then, and then they pack you guys off down to Camp Beauregard, Louisiana. Okay, now describe Camp Beauregard for me. What was that like?
I really don't know much about it because I was there, but it all looked alike. That's all. And then later on, we went to Camp Livingston and did the same thing.
Well, one fellow that we interviewed said that Camp Beauregard was just, wasn't ready for you. He said, just nothing but a damn big
Not
field.
really, no. That was a World War I camp.
Now, once you got, now what was the country like that you were in? You said it all looked alike. So
Oh,
what did it
yeah,
look
it all
like?
looked like, but there was Louisiana, who had swamps and things like that out, and rivers to cross when we were out on maneuvers. And it was a little tougher than the rest of it.
Okay. Now, before you went down to Louisiana, had you ever made a long trip anywhere before, or except to the UP?
No.
Okay. And how was Louisiana different from Michigan?
Oh, it was warmer in the summertime, not hot. And it was about like Michigan. I mean, that had different snakes. They had coral snakes. I shook one out of my blanket once after, in the morning when I got up. And then, they had different spiders and things like that.
Okay, so you had dangerous wildlife.
Yeah, it was really.
Okay.
Our
Now-
captain got bit by water moccasin
Oh, okay.
crossing the river.
All right. Now, I guess while you were down there in the camp, what rank were you at that point?
Oh, I'm just private.
You were just a private at that point. All
Well,
right.
private first class,
First class.
I think, yeah.
Now, were they adding new guys? I mean, were you getting some
Oh, yeah, we
draftees
were
and new
getting
recruits?
new guys all the time.
All right, so they were kind of building the unit
From
up to full
different
strength.
parts of the states, I mean, the east mostly.
Right. So you're a Michigan National Guard unit, but they're adding men from other places to get the unit up to full strength.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right.
Okay. Now, did you get much time off base in Louisiana? Did you get to go to any of the towns?
Well, once
or-
in a while, you'd get a 48-hour passes, and then once in a while you get a week to go to Kalamazoo, about once a year probably.
Okay. Now, did you go down to New Orleans or do anything like that?
Oh yes, we went down there quite a bit weekends. There was, I don't think it was more than 60 miles, it was that much.
Now, what did the guys do when they went down there?
Drink.
Yeah. Most likely.
Yeah.
Okay. Now,
Mostly in bars and things like that.
all right. Now, when Pearl Harbor happened, how did that change what went on in the camp? Did
Well,
that affect you much?
everybody was excited. I was in charge of quarters at that time, and well, they told us, get packed, get ready, and after a while, well, I'm packed, we're not going right away. But after a while, we had to get packed, even they didn't know it.
And did some of the men get actually sent out to go guard things and so forth, or?
No.
Okay. So your company basically just stayed where it was.
Yeah, it was.
Okay. Then I guess let's talk a little bit about the training process down there in Louisiana. Were you now getting regular equipment and weapons and things like that?
Yes, we were then, yeah. In fact, we had 03 rifles from World War I, too. But they were a good rifle because they were more accurate than,
And did some of
we had them once too.
Now, did some of your men still have the older rifles when you shipped out?
I think a few did, but that's all.
Okay. And you were getting sort of the regular mortars and machine guns and those kinds of things.
We had 60 mortars,
Mm-hmm.
and now D Company had 80 mortars.
Because the 60 millimeter was sort of the ones that the regular units had, and then a
Yeah,
weapons
60
company.
millimeter, and they had 80 millimeter.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because they were a heavy weapons
Right.
company.
Okay.
We were just infantry.
Now, did you have any kind of long or extended maneuvers? Were you out in the field for long periods of time while you were training?
Well, yeah, we'd be out for a week or so, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And what did you?
That's
Yeah,
all.
yeah. And what did you do when you were out there? When they sent you out for a week?
It was almost like war, only it was just make-believe stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But it was, we acted like it was, that we were supposed to.
Okay. Now, how closely did that resemble anything that you actually saw when you got into action? I mean, was it good training or helpful training?
Well, New Guinea had, was all jungle.
Mm-hmm.
Or down there it wasn't. And the Army didn't have any experience with jungle.
Mm-hmm.
Fighting, that is, then.
Right.
And we learned a lot fighting.
Right.
That was mostly.
Right.
Once we got up in a long line, I don't know, but we all got up and then started to go forward to find out where the enemy was.
Mm-hmm.
And we lost a lot of men doing that.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, that's getting a little bit ahead of ourselves. So let's go back. It's okay. Let's go back now. So you're in Louisiana. It's after Pearl Harbor. You're kind of waiting to do something. Now,
Well, we went to Boston
right.
and for about a month or so, and,
Mhm.
and then we went to not Los Angeles, but
San Francisco.
San Francisco.
Right. So why did you go to Boston?
Huh?
Why did they send you to Boston?
We were supposed to get on the boat to go over Europe.
Mm-hmm.
But boat burnt. What's the name of that
Was
boat?
the Normandy?
Yeah, the Normandy burnt, so we couldn't go.
Mhm.
And MacArthur asked us to go over to Europe, I mean, and so we went to Europe.
Well, or to Australia?
Adelaide, Australia,
Right,
in the south, and then we went up to Brisbane.
Right. Okay. Now, what was the ocean voyage like? What do you remember about the trip over to Australia?
Oh, it wasn't too bad at all. But we went through the sea where they were fighting,
Mm-hmm.
the Navy was fighting, what was named that? I forget everything.
The Coral Sea.
The
There had
Coral
been a
Sea.
battle in the Coral Sea, yeah.
I think we were going right through it while they were doing that, but we never saw anything. And so, we were lucky, I think.
Okay. Now, do you remember when you got to Australia?
Oh, yeah.
When was that? Or,
Gee, I couldn't get the date. I forget the dates.
sort of the middle of the year in 42?
Oh, yeah, it was something like that,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. Now they take you, I don't know, on the trip over, were a lot of guys getting sick?
Somewhere, but they gave us a bag of lemon drops
Mm-hmm.
and told us to eat those. And I did, I never got sick.
Did you have pretty good weather on the way across?
Oh, yeah, I think
Okay.
so.
So you didn't hit a typhoon or anything
No,
like that?
no.
Oh, all right. And do you remember, did they do anything like when you crossed the equator or the date line or anything
Oh,
like
yeah,
that?
then some of the guys, well, they did things to them, jokes, cut their hair and things like that. Going over the date line, I never did, they never got me. But
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. So you get down to Adelaide, Australia, and what kind of place was that?
Well, that was a fairly big town, but they had a lot of churches down there,
Mm-hmm.
things like that. It was a nice town, and the people were nice too. Australia always had nice people, that we know.
Yeah. Were you kind of the first Americans they'd seen at that point?
Yeah.
All right. And then what did you do while you were in Adelaide?
Well, we did maneuvers too.
Mm-hmm.
In the wintertime. I think once they had edge snow, and that's all they had, because that's way south.
Mm-hmm.
And that's about all.
Okay. And then they
We
switch.
go to town, you know, people invite us to in to eat, things like that. It was nice.
And then they switched you over to Brisbane next. Is that
Mhm.
right? Okay. And how did you get from Adelaide to Brisbane?
On a train.
Okay.
There
And
were
what?
different trains than ours.
Mm-hmm.
You got in from the side, and it had different places in the side, you know,
Mm-hmm.
to set. But it was nice.
Mm-hmm.
They had a different gauge of railroad gauges. And then when we got to one of the other towns, anyway, we changed trains and they had a regular train.
So there were different gauges in each province or something like that, so you have to keep changing the trains. Okay. They send you up to Brisbane. All right. Now, once you got to Brisbane, then what did you do?
Then it was just maneuvers.
Mm-hmm.
This was the Japanese were coming down the Kokoda Trail trying to get to Port Moresby,
Mm-hmm.
so that they could take New Guinea
Right.
for a base.
Mm-hmm.
But the Australians kept them up.
Yeah.
Australians lost a lot of people.
Yeah. Australians were fighting them up there, and you were still down in the Brisbane area. And were they now training you for the jungle? Were they telling you
Oh,
anything?
yeah.
Okay.
They were trying to, even after we got up there. When we got there, we camped in at the edge of an airstrip.
Mm-hmm.
And every once in a while, Japanese send one plane
Mm-hmm.
to drop a bomb, you know,
So this was at Port Moresby?
trying to scare us, yes.
Okay.
But they never scared everybody.
Mm-hmm. All right. I want to talk a little bit more about Brisbane the Brisbane area. Now, were you in a camp outside of Brisbane someplace? Was that where they had you?
Camp Cable.
Camp Cable. And then at Camp Cable, did you have any Australians come in to try to teach you anything about how to fight the Japanese?
I don't believe so,
Okay.
because they were using every man
Mm-hmm.
they can get.
All right. And what was the country like around Camp Cable?
Well, it was nice. They had a lot of trees, things. It was about like the United States,
Okay.
as far as I was concerned.
But it wasn't really much of a jungle or anything.
Oh, no, it wasn't done.
Yeah. So you really don't know what a jungle is going to be like to fight in until you get into one.
No, you got to get in it first.
All right. Now, how did they get you over to Port Moresby? Did you go by plane or boat?
By plane. They flew us. Oh, wait a minute. We went by boat. It was only 40 miles.
Mm-hmm.
And then we landed there. I forget the names of town, but we were there. And then we took a plane
Mm-hmm.
over the Owen Stanley Mountains,
Mm-hmm.
and we landed at Pongani,
Pongani, yeah.
but there wasn't any airstrips hardly.
Mm-hmm.
We landed in the place they were still cutting grass, and I could imagine stumps all over there.
Mm-hmm. So basically, you just kind of landed in sort of an
A
open.
C-47.
Yeah. And so you're landing kind of in an open meadow sort of thing.
Oh yeah, that's right, but they were still cutting.
Okay. Now, who was doing the cutting?
Native.
Okay. So you saw natives there, and so were there a lot of American personnel there when you got there, or just a few setting up the airstrip?
Not a lot, but there was some.
Okay. Now, once you got there at Pongani, then what was your assignment? What was your company supposed to do?
Well, we went to up to Buna, but we had to walk 45 miles to
Okay.
get there, over the mountains,
Okay, so you've
up
got
and down, and
yeah. Now describe that. What was it like? What was
Well-
that walk like? Or that
well,
march
we
like?
were climbing mountains, not
Mhm.
down. some of them so steep we were sliding down on leaves,
Mhm.
but it was dangerous to do that. But they gave us food to last, but the guys ate most of it before they got there.
Mhm.
And, but it was a good trip. I mean, I didn't mind it.
Okay. What was the weather like when you were doing that?
Well, it rained mostly.
Mhm.
We had a lot of rain. But there, you could look down and see it raining way down there.
Mhm. And did the rain make it hard to go up and down on the trail? And was it getting
Well,
muddy?
not really, not really. In places it was muddy, yeah.
Mhm.
But it wasn't too bad.
Now, what did you have to carry when you were going on this march?
Just our packs and our rifles and ammunition.
Mhm. And about how
and
much?
food.
Okay. And about how much do you think that weighed, at least when you started?
Oh, probably 30 pounds or
Mhm.
more. It depends what you was carrying.
Okay. And did you have heavy weapons and things like that? I mean, were there machine guns and mortars and
Well,
stuff?
some of them. We had a machine gun, and rest was well, rifles and mortars.
Mhm.
But we kept going all the time.
Right.
And in the last 5 days before we got there, we ran out of food.
Mhm.
Everybody didn't have anything to eat for 5 days.
So you didn't.
Walking up and down mountains.
So you didn't get resupplied at all?
No,
They didn't drop food for you or anything like that?
no, they couldn't find us, I guess. I don't know.
Okay. That's very possible.
But we come up where we were going,
Mm-hmm.
and then we hit the enemy. So there was a river, and Buna was on one side, and Santa Ana was on the other. And I
Right.
was in Santa Ana.
Right.
There was
And those are just sort of two very small settlements right there along the coastline.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Now, once you got off the trail, did you get a chance to, eat and rest a little bit before they sent you up into the front line, or did they just send you in right away?
Well, they sent us in right away. Then we got rations, but we got a can of bully beef and a chocolate bar
Mm-hmm.
and a little handful of rice
Mm-hmm.
per man.
Mm-hmm.
And bully beef, like a number 2 can or so, a little bigger, I guess. But that was just plain mutton, that's what it was.
Right. So those were Australian rations?
Mhm.
Okay. So you didn't have sort of the American stuff in there except.
And then we had that for about 2 weeks. That's all we had for 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And after that, we got sea rations.
Mm-hmm.
I think they were World War I. Well, they said, when you open them up, eat, but when you get down to the green stuff, don't eat it.
Okay.
But that happened in Louisiana, too.
Mm-hmm. Using up the old supplies. All right. Now, what was the physical situation like when you went up into the line or up toward where the Japanese were?
Yeah.
What was it? What was the terrain like? What did you have to do?
Well, that was all jungle, and then we had to have patrols to go out to find where they were, things like that. We'd take out patrols.
Right.
But we dug the slit trenches,
Mm-hmm.
and that was about 3 months of those slit trenches.
Mm-hmm.
And once in a while we get a little food, but we never got what you call a meal.
Mm-hmm. Well, could you cook anything where you were, or was it you just had to open up cans and
Open up cans and
just
stuff.
eat what there was?
Some might have found something to eat in the jungle, but I don't know when. I never found any. I didn't look for it.
Mm-hmm.
But we ate all right. We lived.
Okay. And now, what was your first contact with the Japanese, or your first indication that there actually were Japanese soldiers out there?
Well, when they started firing at us.
Okay. And how did that happen? Were you on patrol looking for them, or were they coming up on you?
Well, yeah, then all of a sudden, a lot of them got up and came towards us too.
Mm-hmm.
And so we had to fight, shoot them back. And we did that, 2 or 3 times I know of.
Now, when they attacked you, did they do that during the day or at night?
During the day mostly, but they had some night guys going through too.
Mm-hmm. And did you have any Japanese soldiers trying to get into your position or your company's position at night?
They tried, but they never got that far.
Yeah. What could you do to keep them out, or?
Well, we had a man sleep an hour and the next guy sleep an hour all the way along. But they never came to our position too much,
Mm-hmm.
as far as I know.
Mm-hmm.
But during the day I had to take the pull out 3 or 4 miles down the coast and send men out to see if they could contact any Japanese.
Mm-hmm.
But they never saw any.
Okay.
But I did that 2 or 3 times.
Mm-hmm. Now, in your section of the line, were you just with alongside of other companies of the 126th?
Well, down further, yeah, on each side.
Mm-hmm. Okay. But
But we were on the edge of the Kokota Trail, too. I mean, almost on the edge.
Yeah.
And they came from that way getting back.
Mm-hmm.
But then that's when we had to really fight them.
Okay. So there were Japanese trying to get back to Buna after you were there?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Because that's
The Australians were shoving them back.
right. Okay.
Well, some Americans were down in there too. I don't know who.
Yeah. We sent a few Americans. A battalion or so went that way.
Uh-huh.
So now, when the Japanese were pushing back, then did you link up with the Australians, or did you see anything of
Oh
them?
yeah, Australians came and they helped us too.
Mhm.
And they were good soldiers.
Okay. How were the what made the Australian soldiers a little bit different from you guys?
Well, I don't know. I think they paid attention to orders more than we did. But we paid attention. But I mean, they were more strict.
Mm-hmm.
But they were good. They lost a lot of men
Mm-hmm.
coming up that trail.
Well, they had to learn how to fight the Japanese the hard way already.
Oh, yeah.
They'd pretty much done that by the time you got there. Yeah. Now, was your company involved in any kind of direct attacks against the Japanese positions? Did you have to move forward and try to capture
We did.
positions?
Yeah, we went forward. Oh, we were. I don't think we were more than 1,500 yards
Mm-hmm.
from their line,
Right.
and we could hear them chop wood sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
But we both fought back and forth
Mm-hmm.
with patrols.
Right.
And then, towards the last there, the captain asked me to pick a man to go out and draw fire
Mm-hmm.
so they could fire back.
Right.
Well, I didn't want to because I only had 2 men left in my squad,
Mm-hmm.
and they were new guys,
Mm-hmm.
and I knew that they were worried. And so I said, no, I'll go. And he said, no, you're not supposed to go. You're a sergeant. You know?
Mhm.
I said, well, either you go or I go. So in the end, he gave me, like 81 ammunition
Mm-hmm.
to throw, and I had 8 or 9 hand grenades.
Mhm.
So I went out, there was a deflated area, so I sat on the edge up and I shot all that up through all the hand grenades and never fired back.
Mm-hmm.
And so I went back and they sent out a patrol of 5 men
Mm-hmm.
to find out.
Mm-hmm.
But only 2 of them made it. They were saving me for that.
Okay, so you were sent
I
out there
was
to
really
draw.
lucky.
You were sent out there to draw a fire, but maybe they thought, hey, there's just one guy, so
Yeah,
we
that's-
won't shoot at him.
That's the whole thing.
All right. Now, did your company sort of make any kind of larger scale attacks, where like the whole company went forward at once and tried to capture something?
Later, some of the others did,
Mm-hmm.
but ours didn't too much.
Okay. Now you
It
said
was
you're.
about that time I got, everybody had malaria,
Mhm.
everybody. And I had it bad, and they sent me back to hospital. And I had so bad I had to go all the way to Australia.
Okay. Now, while you were in there, what were they doing to try to prevent malaria? I mean, did you have
Well,
quinine
they had
or
Ataburn tablets. Now
Okay.
that would help stop it, but it didn't prevent it.
Mm-hmm.
And we all had that, and then we turned yellow from the tablets.
Right. Okay. Did you have other kinds of diseases too? I mean, did you
They had typhus, scrub typhus, and a whole lot of diseases.
Mm-hmm. Now, you'd mentioned your squad was down to just 2 men and you, and those men were new guys, or replacements, I guess. Were most of the people who were casualties at that point, were those from disease, rather than being shot by the Japanese?
Everybody had. The Japanese had it.
Mm-hmm.
About that time, the Air Corps, the Navy,
Mm-hmm.
had blockade to blockade,
Right.
so they couldn't
Get supplies?
get supplies.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what saved us, I think. They ran out. Hundreds of them started, just
Mhm.
hundreds. They'd find them in groups, all started together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I really felt sorry for them. But it was either them or us.
Okay. Now, did you have a lot of guys who were sort of still staying on the line even though they were sick? I mean, you all had malaria.
Well, everybody stayed on the line, you had to.
Okay. So what was it?
You had to have 105 fever before you could go back, say, medic.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, and then I guess if the fever broke, they just sent you back up to the line.
Yeah, that's
Okay,
right.
but you got evacuated then all the way out to Australia eventually, right?
Yeah, well, I had 107.8 fever,
Wow.
and some of them,
You can't get much.
108, 109,
You can't get much more than that by being
110
dead.
of them died.
Yeah.
A lot of them died from it.
hmm Now, what could they do to treat you for the malaria? When they take you back to the hospital, what can they do for you?
I don't know, really.
You just already remember that stuff?
I was in the daze.
hmm hmm Do you know how they got you out? Did they fly you out, or?
Well, they carried us out.
Mhm.
The native carries us out to the plane,
Mm-hmm.
and we had an airport close by then,
Right.
and they flew us back.
Mm-hmm. Now, did you see much of the natives while you were on New Guinea? I mean,
Oh, yes. I
and
saw a lot.
what kinds of things were they doing?
Well, they had big gardens.
Mm-hmm.
They had big gardens. Yams were their mainstay.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know what else they ate. But they ate off the things in the jungle. They know what to eat.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the natives, the chief, where I took a patrol out, where I sent the men out, and then he had old fishing pool, what do you call it? Bamboo,
Mm-hmm.
about that long, but it was about that big around.
Mm-hmm.
And he put a hole in one end, and he'd stuck certain leaves, certain certain things off the ground, you know, in there, and then when he turned it over and the juices in that would cook it. Then he'd take it and slit it down and open it up and you eat it. I ate it. Then after that I said, what was all in that? He was telling me, but it it had fish heads. I'll cut the eyes and all, you know, but I thought they were real good, but if I'd known it, I wouldn't eat it probably.
Well, it might have been better than mutton at that point, so.
Well, I don't know if they got that much to eat.
They probably didn't want it. Okay, now, what kinds of work do the natives do for you? How do they help?
Oh, they carry supplies. A lot of them did that. They got paid for it, not much, but they got paid for it. And they were, they knew what was happening, and they just helped us. But they were real good.
Okay.
The one, men and women called them, women had nothing above their waist. I mean,
I don't. Did they mostly keep the women away from the soldiers and stuff, or?
natives did, but we didn't. You wouldn't want to anyway. But it never bothered me. Well, it didn't them either. After a day or so, they never noticed it anymore, you know.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see. Now, was it at Buna that you got your Bronze Star, or did that come later?
Well, that was Santa Ana.
Santa Ana.
That's when I went out
That was your one-man reconnaissance mission.
yeah,
Okay.
to draw fire.
Right.
They were supposed to, but I never got hit. I was waiting to get hit, but I didn't.
Okay. So you survive Buna. You get very sick. They send you back to Australia. So you wind up in a field hospital in Australia, basically. All right. Now, do you remember how long you were sick?
Well, you were sick probably about 2 weeks, but then after that, you'd get it again. And so well, they sent me, and this was in 45. And then I got back to the States and went right home. That's the last thing I know.
No.
Oh, I went to Chicago and I worked in the German place. They'd pay them so much to work, like 15 cents a day or something like that.
Okay. I want to kind of get our time frame here right. Buna's going on
But I
late.
worked in the office.
Okay.
I take their names.
Right. So basically, you're doing this while you're still in the service after they sent you back. So, do you know when they sent you from Australia back to the States?
I don't know the dates really.
But sort of somewhere in the middle of 43 or later than that? Or?
Well, no, this was in 45.
Okay. So what?
In early 45.
Okay. So what did you rejoin your unit at all?
No, I didn't.
Okay. So basically.
Well, they stayed over there.
So they stayed in New Guinea, and they're eventually brought back to Australia before they're sent out to go in other places in New Guinea and beyond.
Oh yeah.
Okay. But basically, your fighting war was sort of over then after Buna. Okay. So I'm not trying to.
Well, we had 2 other battles.
Okay, and
But they weren't big ones.
Right.
I mean, like that one.
Right. They went to Saidor.
In one, we had to go through down the coast, and then we went out. About 200 of us went out other ways, and we come to a place was all mud. There was mud up to our chest, and we were holding rifles to get stepping on the trees down below, trying to stay above. But we went about 100 yards that way, man, I thought we'd never get through there. But then they had, we dug in the say all night. They woke me up later, come on, we're moving now. I said, why? They were shooting mortars at us. I didn't hear them. I was sound asleep. But we moved out of there. There was quite a few.
Okay, so you are back with your unit again for a while. So you go out of the Australian hospital, you rejoin your company, and so they land, I think the 126 goes to a place called Saidor, was one landing.
Yeah, Saidor and Aitape.
Yeah, yeah. And were those places where you didn't see a whole lot of the Japanese?
Well, I didn't see much, but we were fighting them. In the jungle, you don't see them happening.
Right. And what else do you remember about those actions?
Well, not too much.
Okay.
Not too much.
Did you have any idea of what you were doing or what you were trying to do in those places? Because at Buna, you had to capture.
Well, yeah, we had to capture certain spots where they were located. But we beat them out of there. But
now, was the Army doing a better job of fighting in the jungle now? Were you any better supplied or equipped than you were before?
yeah, it ended up, it wasn't too bad.
Okay. What were they doing now that was different from when you first
know.
went to New Guinea? Or did you have better food or more medicine or things like that?
I don't know what they do now.
No, what they did then, though, I guess. Because I was asking.
But after I got back, they did better, yeah.
Okay. Right. So you get into a couple more of these actions, and then eventually the division gets sent on to the Philippines. No.
Yeah.
No.
I was all packed to go with them, and then I had malaria real bad,
Okay.
so they said, no, you can't go.
Then you got your relapse, and then okay.
From there, I went home.
Right. And then they send you home on a ship again?
Yes.
Okay. And do you remember what kind of ship you were on?
It was, they called it, well, there was a smaller one, of course. We went over on the little line.
Yeah, big ocean line.
And, what they call those ships?
There were Liberty ships, there were Victory.
Liberty ships,
Okay.
yeah. That would come.
Yeah. Now.
They didn't feel very good either.
Okay. And then do you have any idea about how long it took to get back on a Liberty ship?
I have no idea.
Okay. And do you remember if the weather was bad or do you hit any storms or things like
Never
that?
bothered me.
Okay. So then they get you back and they send you.
I was still in the days all the time.
Yeah. Okay. So then they get you back and they send you to Chicago, right?
Yeah, Chicago, yeah.
And then describe a little bit more what you were doing there.
What?
And describe a little bit more what you were doing in Chicago.
Well, in Chicago, they had prisons of the Germans, and they would give them jobs to do, and I worked in the office, and I typed out their names and hours and things like that. They did pretty good.
And what kind of impression did you have of the Germans? I mean,
Well, they were all right. A lot of them signed up. They wanted to stay here after the war, but they wouldn't let them.
And sort of, did you get a sense of like how old they were? I mean, were these young or the older guys?
About the same as we are.
Regular military age. And did you know anything about them, like where they were captured or things? Were they out of North Africa? Or?
I don't know anything about that.
Okay. So they were just people who walked past you and you filled that
that's
stuff
about
out.
it, because I never knew.
Do you know what kind of work they were sent to or where you were assigning them?
Fix roads and things like that.
Yeah.
In year 2000, we went back to New Guinea. He was there. I might ask him.
Okay. Yeah. Now, did you go back to New Guinea at some point after the war?
Oh yeah, him and his wife took me back about 6 years ago or so,
Okay.
and it was nice. We knew the people. We went through schools, young kids, and they gave us. I was saying they gave us. One of them gave us a mat.
Mhm.
I gave him that.
Tampa.
A bride was supposed to get so
Mm-hmm.
to lay on,
Right.
but it was made of a little bit bark of a tree, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And it's a beautiful thing.
So do the people there, do they remember the day? Did they tell stories about when the Americans came and all of that? And was that part of what they remembered, so they kind of knew something about?
Oh yeah, all the kids knew
Mhm.
the whole thing. They had schools by that time,
Mm-hmm.
and but these were kids like in first grade
Right,
and
right.
third grade and on up. But he mentioned that I was a soldier over there. Boy, they got up and looked and they all want to shake hands.
Mm-hmm.
It was really something. And then they gave me a crocodile, about two, that all carved,
Mm-hmm.
a beautiful thing.
Mm-hmm.
But later on, a few weeks ago, he gave that mat to our museum, and then
Mm-hmm.
about a week ago, I gave that crocodile to the museum too.
Okay. And which museum did that go to?
Kalamazoo.
Kalamazoo? Okay.
Downtown, yeah.
So people can watch this and then go look and they can find your crocodile. Yeah. How was New Guinea different when you went back? They had schools now and things like that. Was Port Moresby
Oh yeah,
bigger?
well they all wore clothes. I
Mhm.
mean, you noticed that, but that's about all I noticed.
Mm-hmm.
But they had roads too. Back then, they didn't have roads.
Mm-hmm.
There was a lady that,
Huh?
there was a lady.
Oh yeah, this one lady, yeah. She was, she was nice. She knew, her father carried that supplies and stuff on
Mhm.
his shoulder and everything, and he got medals for it, things
Mhm.
like that. They were proud of that.
Okay. Now, when you finished your assignment in Chicago and then you finally got to go home, what did you do once you got home?
Well, I didn't do much. Couldn't find a job.
Mm-hmm.
Then I found a job up the Parchment Paper Company,
Mhm.
and I was there for 2 years. I was in the office part, and they finally.
It may have been a few.